Chapter 8. Summer's Point of View. I climbed into bed, pulled the covers over my head, and squeezed my eyes shut. I could almost pretend I was in my bed at home. "Night, girls," Rose said as she turned off the lamp. Me and Bobby both said goodnight, and I curled up into a ball, trying to make myself as small as possible as I drifted off to sleep. I was sitting under my favorite tree at the edge of the river, watching the leaves slowly flowing down the stream. It was so peaceful here. The sun was setting, but the air was still warm. I needed to get away from my family for a while. We spent the whole day arguing about what I should do after school. I wanted to go to college and study drama, but my parents want me to do A levels, as they don't think acting is a proper career. I sighed and laid down, closing my eyes and wiping a stray tear from my face. I knew they only wanted what was best for me, but they needed to let me decide. I heard someone walking towards me, but I didn't move or even open my eyes. I knew it was Lewis. He lay down beside me and grabbed my hand, interlacing our fingers. I sighed happily as my heart raced at feeling the skin against mine. We lay there in silence for what seemed like hours. I was so comfortable around him. There was never awkward silence between us. "What do you think I should do?" I whispered. He let go of my hand and pulled me closer to him. I rolled onto my side and laid my head on his chest, throwing my arm and leg over his body. "Do whatever makes you happy." I knew he would say something like that. He was so sweet and always supported me, no matter what it was I wanted to do. "But what do you think?" I tilted my head so I could look at him. Seeing the love in his eyes made my heart skip a beat. "I think you should go to college." I smiled. "Because that's what I want?" He nodded, grinning as he stroked my hair. "Don't you think I should do the stupid A levels first?" "Nope. That won't make you happy. I know that's what your parents want. And to be honest, I could care less what they want. All I care about is you, so go to college. I'll help with your parents. I'm sure they'll come around eventually." His speech melted my heart. This was so sweet. I buried my head in the crook of his neck, kissing the skin. His arms tightened around me slightly, and I smiled to myself, knowing he loved that. "Thank you, Louis. Anytime." He kissed the top of my head and stroked my arm, giving me goosebumps. "I love you, son," he whispered as the sun disappeared behind the horizon. I rolled over and stretched my arm out, reaching for Louis. I opened my eyes, and when I couldn't find him, I jumped up, sitting against the wall. Where the hell was I? Suddenly, it all came flooding back to me. I bit my lip as my eyes started to sting. I quickly lay down and buried my head in my pillow, crying silently until the pillow was soaking wet. Eventually, I fell back asleep. "Lily?" Poppy said softly as she shook my arm. I was awake, but I couldn't move. I didn't want to. "Come on, you need to have a shower. Clover will be here in 30 minutes. "Lily? My name is Summer." I sighed in defeat and got out of bed. I couldn't stay in bed and dream of Louis like I wanted because he wouldn't let me. And I was too scared of what he would do. Poppy and Rose were already dressed and had started cleaning the cellar, even though we had done it last night, so there was no way it would be dirty. I showered quickly and got dressed. He liked our hair natural and not too much makeup. I wanted to put on thick eyeliner all around my eyes and curl my hair, but after Heather and the other girl, I knew better. It made me feel physically sick that I was dressing how he wanted me to, but I didn't have a choice. I apologized to Lewis over and over in my head. He was incredible, so I knew he would understand. Once I was all ready, I walked out to find Rose and Poppy in the kitchen. As usual, they were cooking breakfast and cleaning up. As soon as they had finished using something, I kept looking at the clock. He would be here in 55 minutes. He was a lot more on edge and unpredictable now. Rose and Poppy couldn't predict how he was going to act or what he would do, and that scared them. Them being scared of him terrified me even more. The cellar door opened and I pressed my back into the sofa. That was a natural reaction now. I couldn't control it. I just always tried to get as far away from him that was possible in the small room. "Good morning, flowers," he said solemnly as he walked down the stairs. Rose and Poppy said good morning, and as usual, I said nothing. Speaking to him made me feel sick. He started walking slowly towards me. My heart was beating so fast, and I couldn't breathe. "Good morning, Lily," he said angrily, looking directly at me. I stood up as my hands started to shake. Good morning," I said quietly, forcing myself to look into his cold brown eyes. He looked me up and down, making my skin crawl. My lungs felt too tight. I could barely breathe. Is he going to rape me? He looked up into my eyes and smiled. "You're very beautiful, Lily," he said, looking me up and down, hungrily, and I swallowed hard to stop myself being sick. I felt dirty and violated as he raked his eyes over my body. He grabbed my hand and held it gently. My body froze. What was he doing? I wanted to scream and push away, but I knew I couldn't. I tried not to gag at the feel of his skin on mine. My whole body tensed until it started to ache. I looked at Rose or Poppy, pleading with my eyes for them to help me, but of course they didn't. "We need to do something to him so we could get away." I couldn't let him touch me again. He smiled again and gestured towards the table with his hand. I sighed in relief and silently obeyed, sitting down in my seat opposite his. But he put something down on the sofa and walked over to the table. A newspaper? Would I be in it? I desperately wanted to read it now, but I wasn't going to get up. I was still shaking, but it was slightly easier to breathe. Now he was over on the other side of the table. We all made conversation as we ate. He kept looking at me as he talked, so I had to respond. I was too scared not to. As we all sat there, he kept looking at me as he talked, so I had to respond. As we all sat there, he kept tapping his foot on the floor and looking between the three of us nervously. Finally, he left and I ran over to the sofa, picking up the newspaper. Tears started rolling steadily down my cheeks as I saw the picture on the front page. It was me. Everyone was looking for me. Would they find me soon? I suddenly felt a little hopeful now I had seen the proof that they were all looking for me. There was a picture of me and Lewis on page 5. I traced my fingers over his face as my heart broke. We looked so happy in this picture. We were happy then. Just the way he was looking at me made my heart ache. "Is that Lewis?" Poppy asked softly, looking over my shoulder. I just nodded, not trusting my voice at all. She put her hand on my back comfortingly. "I'm sorry, Lily." She obviously didn't believe we would be found, but I know we will. Lewis wouldn't give up, and neither would my family. They will find me. I closed the paper and wiped the tears away with the back of my hands. I love seeing him again, but at the same time, it hurt so much. He was going out tonight. I'm not sure if it was to find Heather's replacement or do his other job. Whichever one it was, I was scared for the girl, his next victim. I started reading The Time Traveler's Wife to pass the time as quickly as possible. Every second down here seemed to drag on for hours. How many books would I finish before I got out of here? How many more times would I have to sit down around that table with him? By the time we needed to start cooking, I was halfway through the book. I helped Rose and Poppy make a shepherd's pie as he requested. It was difficult as we only had plastic utensils. The pans were lightweight and probably wouldn't do much damage. I was willing to take the chance, but they weren't. I think I could convince Poppy, but there was no way Rose was ever going to do anything to hurt him. She was either too scared or she loved him. When dinner was in the oven, we quickly cleaned up and waited for him to come back for dinner. I was in the bedroom when I heard him come down. Taking a deep breath, I pulled my top up, trying to cover up as much as I could. It made my skin crawl every time he looked at me. He was looking at the paper when I went back into the room, smirking at it proudly. Was he proud? He seemed to take satisfaction in knowing he kidnapped someone, that people would look for her. He must have known that I wasn't homeless like Rose and Poppy were. I really wanted to know if he planned it or if it was just random, a mistake. I probably wouldn't get the answers to those questions. I slowly walked into the main room and clenched my hands into fists to stop them shaking. "Ah, Lily, so nice of you to join us," he said, sounding amused. "Come sit down. Dinner's almost ready, right, Rose?" "2 minutes, Clover," she replied, sounding too cheery. It was like she was being extra nice to him because she was worried about his moods, and she wanted to keep him happy. We ate dinner, and he talked to me too much, making me feel nervous and uncomfortable. He watched me a lot now, and I hated it. "Right, I'll be back a little later. I have some work to do," he said as he wiped his mouth on a napkin and threw it in the bin. We all quickly said goodbye and started cleaning up the mess. Once he left and I heard the cellar door lock, my body relaxed slightly. At least he was gone for now. "Let's watch a film," Poppy suggested, looking through the DVDs on the shelves along the wall. It was the same every day. How had they both been doing this for years and not gone crazy, I don't know. Rose grabbed some popcorn and we sat down and watched The Notebook. I had seen it a few times before with Lewis. He would always complain that it was too girly, and he was losing his manliness with every minute that I forced him to watch it. At about 9:30, the door opened with a loud bang and a girl's high-pitched scream echoed through the room. We all jumped up and grabbed onto each other. He pushed her down the stairs roughly, making her cry out in pain. Tears were pouring down her face, her mascara had run and was smudged across her cheeks. She was wearing a short denim skirt and a red top that showed a lot of cleavage, and stopped just above her belly button. He was looking at her in disgust as she curled up on the floor at the bottom of the stairs. This wasn't the new Heather. She looked at us and her eyes widened in surprise. "Help me," she begged in barely a whisper, making me cry. She looked so scared and helpless. I wished there was something I could do, but I knew it was useless. I would never be able to overpower him. He kicked her hard in the stomach, making her cry out and choke as she tried to get her breath back. Something cracked, and I pressed my fist to my mouth, feeling sick. I slumped down and pushed back into the sofa, trying to disappear. "Don't talk to them. They're not like you." He spat angrily as he kicked her again. I heard another crack, and she screamed so loud I could still hear it ringing in my ears. I shook my head and gripping my hair, feeling useless. He grabbed her by the hair and pulled her up, slamming her against the wall. She screamed and held her side, whimpering in pain. That crack must have been her ribs. Please don't hurt me, she cried, stuttering and breathing slowly. He just laughed at her. He sounded so evil that sent a shiver down my spine. You're the one making me hurt you. If you wasn't such a disgusting whore, I wouldn't have to do this. He growled, punching her in the face. She fell to the floor from the force and spat out blood on the floor. Rose and Poppy gasped in horror. Oh God, the blood. He looked so murderously angry. His face turned red and his jaw clenched. He pulled out his knife and she screamed and thrashed her arms and legs around, trying to keep him away from her. He kicked her hard in the side, the same place as before. She stopped moving and held onto her side, crying in pain. Dirty whore, he growled, picking her back up and plunging the knife in her stomach twice. Blood immediately started pouring out of the wound, and she slumped to the floor, gagging on the blood and holding her hand over the wound. He kicked her in the stomach again, but she didn't scream this time. She was choking and trying to catch her breath. He rolled her over with his foot and plunged the knife into her chest. She took one last rigid breath before she stopped moving. Clean this, now, he ordered, spitting back upstairs, slamming the door and locking it behind him. I started to gag as a large, bright red pool of her blood formed on the floor, slowly making its way towards us. Rose and Poppy jumped up and ran to clean the blood and put her body in the bag. I ran to the bathroom and immediately threw up. Tears were streaming down my face as I leant over the toilet. I trying to get my breath